Hey, good afternoon. It's your host, Sergeant Seawire of Seawire Nation. Prior active duty U.S. Marine, got out in 2013 as a sergeant, entered the service in December of 2004, served all my time in the infantry in my last 3 years as a combat instructor at School of Infantry East, located in Camp Lejeune. Today's video is basically going to be talking about why you should join the military if you are considering it, or maybe if you're not considering it, why it could be a very viable option for you. So my first bit of advice would be, if you are considering it or haven't considered it, go down to your local recruiting station and talk to all the branches: Army, Air Force, Navy, and Marines. See what all of them offer. What you will find is a lot of them, there will be a lot of overlap in most jobs. Varying jobs will require a certain score to qualify, which you will be definitely required to take the ASVAB for all branches, which then they will break down your scores to see what jobs you qualify for. So, for example, if you want to be an infantryman, Army and Marines both offer infantry. So if that is your career path and that's something you want to do, it's basically going to come down to what branch you want to do it in. Each branch may offer enlistment bonuses and other little tidbits that you can get for enlisting on your first go around. So that could be something to consider. But what I would say is gather all your information, do your research, and wait before you make a decision to at least 6 months, maybe a year. Really think about it. And the reason why I say this is I need you to understand what it is that you will be getting yourself into. Keep in mind, you are committing to a contract of a basic enlistment up to 4 years, maybe a little bit longer, depending on your specific specialty that you choose to go into. And you have to understand that this will be a commitment. You are signing a contract with the U.S. government that you're going to give X number of years of your time to service to your country. As of right now, we are not currently engaged in hostile actions as of right now. Hopefully it stays that way, especially now that Afghanistan has winded down and come to a close. There's always new threats on the horizon. You never know what's going to happen. So that's something you're definitely going to have to be mentally prepared for. What if this kicks off? Keep this in mind. And what are the benefits to joining the military? Well, if you're like me, some of you may be stuck at a dead-end job, not really knowing which direction to go, not sure if you want to go to college, or may not even have the money to go to college or to a trade school. But you want to reinvent yourself. You want to give yourself your next chapter. Well, I can honestly say from my experience, the military is the best way to do it. Here's a story on how it happened with me. So at the time, basically all through high school, even after high school, coming into the early 2000s, I was working in pizza shops. And at the time, kept thinking, is this it for me? Is this as far as I go? Wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, but I knew that there had to be a rebirth of some point. There had to be something new had to take place, and I wasn't really quite sure how to do it. So one of the best things that ever happened to me, over a scuffle between me and another assistant manager, we're both assistant managers working for Papa John's at the time, and she was in cahoots with the district manager and his wife. I ended up losing my job. And I remember sitting in my car thinking, okay, what am I going to do now? What's my next step? Okay, I'll go to a temp agency, see what work they have. Maybe I can get into something there that I would like to do. I go down, fill out the application, talking to the lady there, and she says, all we have for you at this time is sweeping eggshells. I turned around, walked out, sat back in my car, and I'm like, I'm not fucking doing this. So something has to give. And I'm telling you, as good as the God above me, I heard a voice say in my head, go see the recruiters. Now, keep in mind, I've always been interested in military history, read a lot about it in high school, always watched military documentaries. So, interest in the military has always been there. Okay, so I go down. So that day, I drive down to the local recruiting office, and the first office, as soon as you walked into the building, was the Army. So obviously, that's the first one I went into. The Air Force was right across, but they weren't there. Talked to the Army recruiter, which was at this time, this would have been 2002, going into 2003. So Iraq had already kicked off. Afghanistan was a thing. So obviously 9/11 had already happened. And they were all civilian recruiters. None of them had served a day in the Army. Me knowing a little bit like that all the branches offer the same college benefits. So I understood that. So, I sat down with the guy, said, look, I get the whole college thing. Every branch offers that. Why should I join you? What jobs do you have available? What could I do? And he's like, well, what would you be interested in? I said, well, if I'm going to do it, I said maybe artillery, infantry, something fun. I never fired a firearm up until that point. So, I was interested in that. So we talked a little bit. He sent me out with some pamphlets. And then I walked over to the Navy, sat down with that recruiter. Cool dudes, all Navy guys in their uniforms. So they were obviously in and were able to give me more information than the Army guys were able to. Spoke with them, what opportunities and jobs that they had versus the Army. Obviously, the college benefits were all the same across the board. And then my last stop was to the Marines. Once again, all Marines in their uniforms. Sat down, talked with them. It was very brief. I remember this as if it happened yesterday. I wasn't there maybe even 5 minutes, and the Marine recruiter goes like this. If this is something you're serious of doing, you'll be back. Because at the time, I was way overweight. I was close to 280 pounds at this time. So I had weight I had to lose before they would even let me take the ASVAB or go enlist. So I go home with the information, I'm looking over it, talking to my old man. For those of you who don't know what old man means, my father. If you come from an Italian background, a lot of us say old man. He was Army National Guard during Vietnam. Oh, correction, Air Force National Guard during Vietnam. So I told him what my mindset was, where my mind was at as I'm looking at this stuff. And he goes, well, think it over and see what you think. At this time, I was 22, probably going on 23 at this point. So I was definitely old enough to make my own decisions. So after giving it some consideration, I flipped the coin because it came down to Navy or Marines. Flip the coin. All right, Navy it is. So I started working with the Navy recruiter. He's like, all right, well, we got to get your weight down substantially. Okay, so I due diligence, went to the local gym, which was right up the street from the house. And thankfully, the two trainers that I ended up getting, actually usually paired with one as you get like 5 free sessions. I ended up getting paired with 2. And the head trainer there was a master sergeant in the Army who also handled their fitness. So he knew what I needed to do. He knew what needed to be done. So these two started putting me on a very structured plan, strength training, cardio, the works. Mapped out my diet, what I needed to do. So we got at it. And the weight started coming off. And, of course, I'm feeling good because, I'm making these strides because I now have it in my head that I'm going to do this. During this process, I was getting the feeling that maybe the Navy's not where I'm supposed to be. It was this nagging thought that just kept eating at me the entire time. And I go and take the ASVAB, have the score for the Navy to enlist in the Navy. But I kept hearing this voice in my head saying, this is not where you need to be. You need to join the Marines. And I kept feeling like I need to really, if I'm going to do this, I got to join the hardest one and really reinvent myself to make a change. So I went to the Navy recruiter, told him what my intent was, that I intend to go join the Marines, and told him why I was doing it. I said, I feel that this is probably where I need to be. Something's pulling me there. And I feel, for me personally, I want this transformation to be drastic. And I couldn't find anything more drastic than the Marines. Mind you, I didn't tell my friends or family that I was doing any of this. They knew I was thinking of joining the military, but I haven't committed, really. Definitely didn't tell them I was thinking of joining the Marines at this point. So I called the Marine recruiter, say, here's my ASVAB score. Interested in combat arms. He's like, okay, come down and talk to me tomorrow at noon. Walk in, and I'll remember his name, Sergeant Nye. Sergeant Nye, great dude. And Sergeant Otero, who later would become Master Sergeant Otero. I would run into him many years later at Camp Lejeune. So I sat down, told him what my goals were and why I was doing this. Now, the recruiter that had spoke to me, who was a staff sergeant, if I'm not mistaken, was still there. And he goes, I knew I'd see you again. He's like, we just knew you'd be back here. It's like they knew I was coming back. And I just said, look, I need to reinvent myself. And I don't know if I was staying in 4 years or 20. I just knew, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to pick the hardest one and I'm going to go for it. And they say, well, you got the right attitude. So we went, looked at my scores. I said, well, I would like infantry. I said, once again, if I'm only going to do this once, then this is what I want to do. All right, no problem. So they write up all the paperwork. That Sunday, I go to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, to the MEPS station, which is the Military Interesting Processing Station, for those of you that don't know. And and you're there all day. You're actually put up in a hotel the night before, then you're taken over there the next morning. And that's where you go through your physical, your background check, which is an FBI background check. And basically any background check you could think of, they do it. All your screening. For the Marines, you had to do like 3 pull-ups and I forget how many crunches at the time. Met the minimum for that. And then I sat down with the staff sergeant there and he went over my contract. Okay, so you're signing up for infantry option. Here's the length of your enlistment will be 4 years. You'll be going to Marine Recruit Depot, Paris Island. Is all this information correct? Yes, it is. So I signed my contract and then swore in. Recruiter comes to pick me up. We go home. Now, my parents didn't know where I was. Then again, I'm in my 20s. I really didn't have to tell them. Come home. They're like, where were you? I said, oh, I was up in Harrisburg. I was enlisting in the Marine Corps. I said, no, you didn't. I said, like, fuck, I didn't. Threw my paperwork down there right in front of them, and they were flabbergasted. But I think also excited that I decided to do this. And I said, I need to do this. I need to put myself on a different path. And that's basically how my career started in the Marines. The Marines were, in my opinion, my best choice. Nothing against the Army or the other services. I'm not going to knock them. But the Marines were the best choice for me. And honestly, I had a close to 10-year career in the Marine Corps. So, you had some good. I had more good than I had bad. I was an infantryman. I was a 0331 machine gunner. And then, my last few years, I picked up the secondary MOS of 0913 combat instructor, returned to School of Infantry, where I was as a private, now to teach young Marines how to be machine gunners. And I loved it. Absolutely loved that job. I did not want to be a drill instructor, did not want to be a recruiter. I wanted to be a combat instructor. And I did it. I achieved the rank of sergeant. And you're probably asking, so why did you get out? You were like almost at the halfway marker. Well, at that time, 2 combat deployments and a Purple Heart, I just started to get the feeling it was time for me to come home and start another chapter in my life. So that's, why I had decided to get out. But circling back to why you should join the military or why you should consider it is for the same reasons. Like, you want to change, you want it to be drastic. And the military is going to give you training for free in any job that you choose. So let's say you like to work on cars and that's something you want to do, work on engines. Motor T will be for you. They're going to send you to schools on how to fix engines, all sorts of stuff. And you're going to get out of the service, however long you stay in and you decide to get out, with that knowledge, with that skill set. So keep that in mind. You're going to gain leadership. experience. And what I would also recommend, if opportunities come up and you're in, take them. Take them. Prove yourself. Take them. Challenge yourself. Stay in shape. Stay out of trouble. You do all these things, yes, there are going to be days that suck, but you're going to have more good than you will bad. So that's it for now. Hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe, and I'll be providing more content on various other subjects other than military, be it video games, other hobbies I'm into, current world politics, basically everything that I'm interested in, I'll be making a video on. Hope to see you again soon, and take care.